Alright guys, so I'm back and I'm talking about when I went and did the Assessing Learners project for lesson number 5. So for that I decided I would go to Desert Ridge High School, which is in Mesa, Arizona. A little background, I've coached there, I've coached football there, so I have a few connections. And when I wasn't coaching at the time, but I knew what was going on. Um, so I went there because I had connections and I knew that was one of the options that was presented. So I decided to go with that. So I went to Desert Ridge. I went to one of the lineman camps that they do. Um, they do these camps so that they don't count as actual football practices, technically, because if they do, the AIA will get mad at them and they'll lose spring football time. So they do this early on in the spring semester. They start these just so that when it comes to spring football, especially for the varsity and JV levels, they're already ahead of the game and can actually get productive when it comes to plays and sort of figuring out who they are offensively and defensively and stuff like that. So we already have schemes and that sort of stuff going and ready. So this practice started around 3:45, and yeah, the guy who was running it, his name is Joel Reichert. I've known him for a few years. He's a real good dude. He's a pretty good line coach. Um, yeah, so I was observing him, and one of the first things that they started doing, other than stretching, that's sort of just a given, is they started off with their steps. And, for linemen, their feet and their hands are the most important thing. So getting their steps down is, one of the earliest things they can do. Um, I related to I related this to the quote from Obi and Sapp on page 156, where it says the importance of diagnostic assessment in designing instruction as well as determining the placement of students cannot be overemphasized. So I liken this to um, diagnostic assessments because he was seeing where the kids were at steps wise, um, and see who had remembered and who was able to pick up on the new instructions. And then from there, he was going to be able to sort of grasp and, plan out our practices. Like, say, if they were having trouble with pass protection and stuff like that, the next day he'd have some drills, or the next practice he'd have some drills that they could do and stuff like that in order to not have those problems. Just to improve on those and stuff like that. So the next quote that I liked, that I was able to kind of pull in, was that assessment is formative when learners use information from assessment to bridge a gap between what they can do and what they need to be able to do, or between what they know and what they need to know. So this one has a few different parts to it. When they were doing steps, and more importantly, when they were doing double team drills, like what I said in my transcript, Reichert, along with some of the other coaches that showed up to be on hand for this, were giving out coaching pointers and telling them, hey, your feet should step this way. Hey, you should be upfield. You should drive through the man. Your hips need to come with your hands. Just, little stuff like that. And that was able to give the students, the players, kind of an idea of how far they had to get in order for a perfect block, but also where they're at, time wise, how much more practice they needed and what they need to know. Just little tidbits and little things like that kind of make assessment formative, stuff like that. So when they're putting in plays, I had another quote. It says, "Assessment may serve the following diverse purposes: to establish a level of student knowledge and understanding, to monitor student progress, to diagnose difficulties, to determine students' ability to cooperate on a task with others and problem solve." So it was pretty early, but they had already been putting in plays. And these are all things that they've been doing for the past 4 years. So at least for the seniors, they should have a base knowledge of our plays and what we like to get done. So the quote I liked was, oh, I already mentioned that quote. So with that quote, what was I gonna say? What he was doing for a lot of the older kids is he was putting them into different situations, maybe some that it could have been a little too early for, but he wanted to see where they're at conceptually and what they had memorized from the years before. So he'd switch up formations in front of them, try and get them to think and where the different calls and the different schemes and the different sort of split stuff. So stuff like that to really try to assess and see where they were, conceptually, play-wise, being able to understand that. So yeah, this happened April 11th. It was really, the big part of what I saw when I was assessing, this certain football coach, doing his job after school and stuff like that. Anyways, thanks.